Hi, this is John Harcher, and welcome to episode 26 of Left Turn At Albuquerque. Today we'll be dealing with disc 2 of Collector's Vault Volume 1. This has the shorts that were on the Golden Collections, the Superstars disc, but needed the blue upgrade.
I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque. I should have turned left at Albuquerque.
Before we move on to disc 2, we have a little cleanup on aisle 25 to take care of. I'd mentioned back when we did Foxy By Proxy on the Bugs Bunny Superstars disc, it was a partial remake of Fox and Hounds and even used the opening animation. So I should have mentioned that when we got the actual cartoon. Some parts of it are very similar, you know Frizz. It's also the third use by Bugs of the rotating log gag. Now, speaking of that tune, of Fox and Hounds, it was one of 3 new restorations on disc 1. I mentioned Each Dawn I Crow was another, but our viewer Ryan LT noted I forgot to mention the third, which was A Day at the Zoo. He also wanted a little more about the restorations to each, most of which were done for HBO Max back in the day, so point taken. Let's do a brief rundown of all 25 cartoons. Yep, even Double or Mutton as a refresher. Bars and Stripes Forever is a little on the soft side, but not too much cell debris left. George has mentioned they don't do too much cleanup on this specifically, but they do an overall cleaning which may take care of some of the more egregious examples. Beauty and the Beast actually looks better than the Honeymoon Hotel restoration. It's bright but not overly so, bringing out the colors nicely. The Photoshop titles, though. A Day at the Zoo, as we just mentioned, was the first of the 3 new restorations on the disc. It's very nicely done. Light years better than the previous public domain version our buddy Jamie C. from the Hoffman boards has been stuck with for years. But just take a look at this cut and paste job here. The Dixie Friar looked as good as most of the later ones do. The cell debris issues were mostly not a factor later on. It's not super sharp, but clear. Double or Mutton had a few issues on the title card, but the tune itself was cleanly done. Each Dawn I Crow was the second restoration, and it's one of those cleanups that made Jerry Beck reassess his appreciation of the short. He also learned about the Inner Sanctum references, which raised it in his estimation.
Some Sunday morning. This Sunday morning.
Easy Peckins is a modest cleanup, nothing overwhelming, just an overall cleaner look. Feather Dusted is a little sharper than its previous incarnation, the edited version of which you can still see on Boomerang. It wasn't bad to start with, so its improvement was kind of, around the edges. A Fox in a Fix looks even sharper than Feather Dusted, even though the night sequences are a little on the softer side. Since I hadn't seen this in its syndicated version, I can only go off of this one about how good it looked. Goodnight Elmer, as noted previously, was so well done, it's another one that Jerry Beck is taking a second look at based on what he's seeing now. Now, I'll tell an interesting story by Jerry from the recent Extras podcast about a certain unexpected place cartoon ended up being shown, and for an odd reason. The Goofy Gophers is cleaned up, but it's one of those from the 1947-1948 era that we've talked about previously that just looks a little less clear overall. It's not bad, but it's like there's only so much better they can get these to look, where some of the ones from earlier end up looking sharper. Like I'd Love to Take Orders from You. The early Technicolors can look better than the ones from 10 years later. The titles may be photoshopped on this one, but overall it's very nice. You can almost see the brush strokes on the backgrounds. There is one weird thing though. Take a look at this. It's kind of like the Sneezing Weasel one. It happens towards the end again too. Is this film or digital? Live or Memorex? A Kitty's Kitty looks as clean as a whistle. It's probably among the best on the disc. Let It Be Me is basically in the Love to Take Orders from You category, a great looking early Technicolor restoration. Also interesting how these early ones tend not to have the cell debris issues the 40s ones do. I guess the washers had more time to get them totally clean back then. This still has the blue ribbon title card as opposed to the possibly Photoshop ones from the other one. Of Fox and Hounds, we've pretty much gone over. It's also the longest on this disc, over 9 minutes, and it's the third of the 3 new restorations. I mean, look at the opening tracking shot. Leaves enough grain to make it look old, but still new. Quackadile Tears, regardless of the quality of the short or animation, these early 60s ones are just about always going to look great, and this is no exception. I just noticed Daffy doesn't have his grandma's pearl necklace on this one. And look, take a look. Now, Ready, Woolen, and Able also falls into this category. It's from 1960 and looks pristine. Robin Hood Makes Good is another one from the 30s that looks good overall, but the cells begin to look a little worse for wear. Some scratches and blotches become all the more clear. Oof, and the first cell with the fox. Eesh. That's the dichotomy of doing a good job on the restoration front. The bad stuff comes out even more. The Squawk and Hawk has a splotchy cell with the worm at the beginning, but otherwise this is very nice and sharp. Sometimes it's tough to do with these nighttime cartoons, but this one is done well. Terrier Stricken, to be honest, starts out a little on the dull side. It's clean, but you can see some of those cell marks clearly. Later on, the colors perk up a bit, but they never really leap off the screen at you. Tweet and Lovely is a later one, 1959, so it's going to look very good to start. Tweety's bathtub has some debris and there are some smudges with the dog, but that's about the worst of it. Tweety's Circus looks clean, but not quite as sharp, and does have some cell debris here and there. The Flame Eater segment has the most issues. Now, Two's a Crowd is interesting. It's one of those where the front animation and the backgrounds look separate at times, like here at the beginning, or this one with Claude. Again, it's just a good consequence of bringing these to higher definition. Both Roadrunners were later on, so they look good to start. Wild About Hurry has a scene or two at some degree like the rocket sled, but nothing drastic. Finally, Zip and Snort oddly looks a little duller than Hurry. It must have just been how it was made. That's definitely nothing to complain about. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, let's get into the Disc 2 rundown. 8 She Tweet was released on June 21st, 1952, directed by Fritz Freeling and written by Warren Foster. Surprise. Tweety's in a pet shop and Sylvester wants to get him out and into his mouth. But he gets delivered to Granny, who has an entire pack of bulldogs, so how does the cat get through? Very carefully. There's actually a lot of similarities in this one to Dog Pounded with the pack of dogs and all, but that was later on, so this is kind of the original of that thought. Now, this originally appeared on Golden Collection Volume 2 on the Tweety and Sylvester-centric Disc 3. That had a Greg Ford commentary, but none of those are included here. We'll talk about all those commentaries when we do the Goldens. The blue upgrade on this one is a bit grainy at times. Banty Raids came out on January 5th, 1963, directed by Robert McKimson and written by him and Nick Benyon. Foghorn Leghorn has to keep track of a little bantam rooster who likes to be a hip ladies' bird with all the hens. Now, this originally appeared on the Foghorn Leghorn Superstars disc, Barnyard Big Mouth, which we did back in episode 18. Kind of surprised this got the upgrade first over a lot of the other ones on that disc, but we will get another one from that disc on this set, and another surprising one. This one looks terrific in blue. Birth of an Ocean was released on April 12, 1947, directed by Robert McKimson and written by Warren Foster. Daffy decides against flying south for the winter and takes refuge in a house owned by a mad scientist who looks and sounds just like Peter Lorre and his dog Leopold, leading to chaotic encounters. Now, this is another cartoon that was started by Bob Clampett but finished by other hands, in this case Robert McKimson. Now, Mel had done a good Peter Lorre in Hair Raising Hare the year before, but this time out, Stan Freberg does the killer impersonation, in more ways than one.
Give me your wishbone.
This was originally on Golden Collection Volume 6. Now, with the opening here, why is Daffy brown? What's up with that? Lots of leftover debris on this cartoon. When we're done, I'll tell the story of how Jerry Beck found a 35mm print of this film in the strangest place you could possibly imagine. Bye Bluebeard came out on October 21st, 1949, directed by Art Davis and written by Sid Marcus. Porky Pig is terrorized by a mouse who makes him believe that he's Bluebeard the pirate in the house trying to kill him. But it turns out the real 6'11" Bluebeard is there as well. This cartoon was the last one that the Art Davis unit worked on. It's also one of the ones that Channel 5 cut the daylights out of. I mean, it's right up until the point till the real Bluebeard shows up. I mean, it's barely 3 minutes left. What's the point? They got a lot of those. This was originally on Golden Collection Volume 3 and has a great looking blue upgrade. Cattails for Two was released on August 29, 1953, directed by Robert McKinson and written by Ted Pierce. Two cats named Benny and George pursue a very fast Mexican mouse who outsmarts them at every turn. This cartoon marks the first appearance of the character Speedy Gonzales, only Speedy's running around in a red shirt, has black hair, and that's it, no sombrero or bandana. Oh, and the gold tooth. It took Friz Freleng to use him, give him his familiar look, and turn him into a star. This was on the Speedy-centric Disc 3 of Golden Collection Volume 4, and was on the networks from time to time. There's some grain here and there, but good upgrade overall. Daffy Dilly came out on July 3rd, 1948, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese. Daffy Duck tries to deliver some novelty items to a reclusive millionaire who hasn't laughed in years, but faces stiff opposition from the butler of the house. This cartoon is early in Daffy's transition from his earlier screwball persona to the more self-interested character he would become in later cartoons. Now this is another one where the original title card does exist. Here's a representation of what the title sequence would look like. It's probably from one of those 16mm prints that they can't do upgrades on, so we're stuck with this. And unfortunately, we don't have the music, so we can't do a complete recreation. This was on the Daffy Duck Superstars disc, Frustrated Fowl, which we did back in episode 14, take 2. And this is an overall upgrade from that appearance. Daffy Duck and Egghead was released on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1938, directed by Tex Avery and written by Ben Hardaway. Egghead hunts a wild duck who leads him on a wild chase and a bit of revenge on an audience member. This is the second cartoon to feature Daffy Duck following his debut in Porky's Duck Hunt, which we'll see soon, and it was his first appearance in color. It shows him in his early, more manic form and pairs him with Egghead, who would later evolve into Elmer Fudd, or not. There's still some debate over it, if he turns into Elmer or if the guy on the other disc turns into Elmer. I tend to lean towards the other guy. Now, we did this cartoon back in episode 13 due to its appearance on the Essential Daffy Duck. It was on Golden Collection Volume 3 before that. Very nice backgrounds in this one that the blue upgrade revealed more. Gee Whiz came out on May 5th, 1956, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese, like all the Roadrunners were at that point. So here's the rundown. Coyote hides in a sewer, shoots a bullet that can't outrun the Roadrunner, gets steel plate armor. The Roadrunner runs right through it, uses dynamite on a fishing pole, bounces under a rock, explodes, and sends the rock on top of him. He gets the Batman outfit and flies into a cliff, and the wings come off. He uses an anvil and a rubber band. He loses grip and plows into the road. He uses TNT on extenders. They push the Coyote into a cliff. The TNT follows and explodes. Coyote paints a bridge outside. The Roadrunner goes right through it, and the Coyote falls off the bridge. Coyote uses explosives on the bridge. The plunger won't work. He goes into the bridge to chase the Roadrunner. The plunger goes down. He creates a rocket cycle that goes soaring off of the cliff after the chase, runs out of gas, and the cartoon ends before he hits the ground. This was originally on Golden Collection Volume 2, this time on the Roadrunner and Coyote-centric Disc 2. Now, the Batman outfit is one of the most famous of all the Acme products that the Coyote used and didn't work properly. Now, there are very inventive opening credits on this one that I don't remember seeing, so it was very likely a network short that would cut all of them out. Overall, this looks nice, but it's a little on the grainy side. The backgrounds are very reminiscent of Chuck's experimental period back in the 40s. They don't quite look real. Gonzales Tamales was released on November 30th, 1957 by Freeling and Foster. Sylvester heads south of the border to help a group of local mice who get jealous of Speedy always coming into town and stealing all the ladies' hearts. Yeah, that's it. I guess they're the tamales of the title. This was originally in Golden Collection Volume 3 and on the networks when it was on TV. Now this one looks spectacular as a lot of the early cartoon cell debris issues were gone by the time you got to like the late 50s. Hare Conditioned came out on August 11th, 1945, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Ted Pierce. Bugs Bunny is pursued by a department store manager who wants to turn him into a stuffed display after his exhibition ends. Now this one makes extensive use of the department store setting for a lot of the visual gags and features Bugs in one of his classic outsmarting the big antagonist scenarios that Chuck loved to do. He also uses really experimental angles here. It's very bizarre at times. Now there's a very specific pop culture reference in this one as Dave Barry models his voice for the manager after Harold Peary, who is known on radio for doing the Great Gildersleeve. You'll hear a slight modification of that name here.
You know, you sound just like that guy on the radio, the Great Gildersleeve.
This was on since I was small and originally appeared on Golden Collection Volume 2. Ugh, cell debris on the title cards. Oy. There's some other instances here and there, but it looks okay later on. Hare Trigger was released on May 5th, 1945. Another May 5th. Directed by Fritz Freeling and written by Michael Maltese. Bugs Bunny matches wits with Yosemite Sam on a train, with Sam attempting to rob it and Bugs foiling him at every turn. Now, this is the first cartoon for Yosemite Sam, who was created by Fritz Freeling as a more formidable opponent for Bugs than Elmer Fudd, and many people think was modeled after Frizz. And to go along with Sylvester and Pepe Le Pew, it's also his 80th birthday year as well. This finally appeared on the Golden Collections on Volume 6 as the first cartoon on the set. This is another one that's also been on since I was a kid. The blue upgrade looks as good as I would hope. A little grainy from time to time, and there's one nasty shot with debris, but this is as good as a 1945 cartoon is going to look. Hare Trimmed came out on June 27, 1953 by Freeling and Foster. Yosemite Sam tries to marry a wealthy widow, but Bugs intervenes, disguising himself as a rival suitor, and the widow herself to keep Sam away. This originally appeared on the Bugs Bunny Superstars disc, Hare Extraordinaire, which we did last year in episode 11. Looks okay for a blue upgrade. Horton Hatches the Egg was released on April 11, 1942, directed by Bob Clampett and written by Warren Foster, based on the book by Dr. Seuss. An elephant named Horton agrees to sit on an egg for a lazy bird named Maisie, enduring ridicule and hardship to keep his promise.
I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant faithful, 100%.
This is one of the few direct adaptations of a Dr. Seuss book, or any other book for that matter, in the Warner Brothers Cartoon Library. Bob does toss in his touches.
Hot that raw, then on the rill and a so one, so forth.
Well, now I've seen everything.
Oddly enough, the other Horton book, Horton Hears a Who, was adapted in the 70s by Chuck Jones for a CBS TV special. This was originally also on Golden Collection Volume 6. I don't remember seeing this much on TV until TBS. The blue is grainy, but that clean kind of grainy. Little Boy Boo came out on June 5th, 1954, directed by Rob McKimson, written by Ted Pierce. Foghorn wants to court Miss Prissy for her warm house, but has to impress her little son, Egghead Jr., to make the grade. Now, this cartoon features the debut of the brainy little tot. This is another one from the Foghorn Superstars disc. We'll be getting one more upgrade from that disc, but not from our favorite, I say our favorite rooster. By the way, Marion Richmond did Miss Prissy in this cartoon.
But you said you needed my love to keep you warm.
This is generally a nice, clean blue upgrade. Much Ado About Nothing was released on September 12, 1953 by Jones and Maltese. A squirrel finds a coconut and goes to extreme lengths to crack it open, leading to increasingly elaborate and desperate attempts. This cartoon is notable for having almost no dialogue, relying entirely on visual storytelling, and the squirrel's increasingly frustrated expressions, undeniably from the Chuck Jones stable. He kind of reminds me of his later version of the Jungle Book's Rikki Tikki Tavi, the way he looks. This is another one that Channel 5 practically cut in half. It wasn't until it came out on Golden Collection Volume 6 that I saw the whole thing. The blue gives a nice contrast between the clean foreground and the grainy backgrounds. Odor-able Kitty came out on January 6, 1945, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Ted Pierce. A cat, tired of being abused by humans, disguises himself as a skunk to scare people away. His plan works until a real skunk, Pepe Le Pew in his debut, becomes romantically interested in him.
That's just a rough idea, you understand?
Now, as mentioned, this was the first cartoon for Pepe Le Pew, though his character would undergo significant refinement in later appearances. Like our next cartoon, we'll get to that in a second. To be honest, the blue upgrade's a little on the dull side here, but hey, I just noticed 2 of the 80th birthday people get their first appearances on this disc. Funny how that works out. Past Perfumance was released on September 3rd, 1955, again by Jones and Maltese. Peppy pursues a female cat who got a white stripe paint on her back. How original. And he chases her through various Paris silent era movie sets. Of course, both of these last 2 cartoons come from the Pepe Le Pew Superstars disc, which contained all of his filmography. In general, this one looks terrific in blue. Porky's Duck Hunt came out on April 17, 1937, directed by Tex Avery and probably written by him as well. Porky Pig goes duck hunting and encounters a wild, zany duck who torments him throughout the hunt, among many other things that happen. Bob Clampett did the animation on Daffy, so while there's a little debate over who gets credit for Bugs' birth, there's no doubt here. We finally get the blue upgrade for this after its DVD appearances on the Essential Daffy Duck and Porky Pig 101. We talked about it for both of these. It's still got that flaw in the opening where the music cuts in. I mean, between the credits there on 16mm can't officially be restored, like Daffy Dilly or things like this. You know, I'm okay with a little digital manipulation, you know. Think about it, guys. As the only black and white on this disc, it looks as good as the one from the Platinum Collections. Rabbit Punch was released on April 10, 1948, directed by Chuck Jones and written by Ted Pierce and Michael Maltese. Bugs faces off against a massive boxing champion known as the Crusher in a match that quickly dissolves into a no-holds-barred brawl and open warfare. As mentioned before, this cartoon showcases Jones's predilection to have Bugs as the perpetual underdog, always managing to outsmart physically bigger opponents, like in Hare Conditioned. This was released on Golden Collection Volume 3, but we used it as one of our additions to the Bugs Bunny 80th Anniversary set. Plus, it reuses the ending gag from My Favorite Duck. Now, this looks terrific in blue. Should have been there sooner. Red Riding Hoodwinked came out on January 8th, 1955 by Freeling and Foster. This is a twist on Little Red Riding Hood, as they've done so often, featuring Tweety as a gift from Red to Grandma, Sylvester kind of in the role of the wolf, but the wolf is there as well, and Granny is Granny, with both Sylvester and the big bad wolf competing to catch Tweety. Now this one does a nice job of combining the classic fairy tale with the established Sylvester and Tweety formula, showing Warner Brothers' willingness to blend familiar stories with their established characters. Then again, it's not Red Hot Riding Hood. This was a Saturday morning staple and appeared on Golden Collection Volume 5 on Disc 2, which featured many of Warner's different takes on fairy tales. Rhapsody Rabbit was released on November 9, 1946, directed by Fritz Freeling and written by Pierce and Maltese. Bugs attempts to perform Franz Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 on the piano, but is constantly interrupted by a mouse. Okay, let's go over this in depth a little bit, and we'll do more when we do the other cartoon as well. As we talked about it when we used it as an extra for the Bugs Bunny 80th anniversary set, this cartoon was released almost simultaneously with MGM's The Cat Concerto, starring Tom and Jerry, which has a virtually identical premise. Both studios, but not the directors themselves, accused the other of plagiarism, but from all appearances and investigations, the similarity looks to have been totally coincidental. It does look like Frizz started his cartoon first, while Bill and Joe started theirs soon after. Now, somehow Technicolor sent over a copy of this cartoon to MGM. When Hanna-Barbera saw it, they quickly moved to get theirs done and out. They ended up winning the head-to-head battle by winning their 4th Oscar in a row, but Frizz got his revenge next year by breaking the streak with his cartoon Tweety Pie. When we do the Cat Concerto, we'll go over a list of the other cartoons that have used this particular piece of music. It was actually pretty popular across a lot of different companies. I just have to say, I like this one better, maybe because I saw it first, but also has got a lot more variety compared to the Tom and Jerry one. I always love this little boogie woogie thing that they do here. This was originally on Golden Collection Volume 2. Now, interestingly, this actually looks better than the later Rabbit Punch that we just did, except the cell with the phone call. Oof. Snow Business came out on January 17th, 1953 by Freeling and Foster. The cat and bird are snowed in while Granny is trapped down the bottom of the mountain due to a blizzard. They're friendly at first, but when they realize the only food they have is birdseed, Sylvester gets a different idea. There's also a starving mouse who'll eat a cat no problem. This one uses the winter setting a little differently to create unique visual gags and obstacles for the feline, showing how the formula could still be fresh even after they had done so many cartoons, even in just 6 years. This was on Golden Collection Volume 2 and Disc 3. This was on the networks and it's been on Boomerang for quite a while. The blue version here looks pristine. Tom, Turk and Daffy was released on November 4th, 1944, time for Thanksgiving. Directed by Chuck Jones and written by the staff, who we think mean Ted Pierce and Michael Maltese. Daffy agrees to hide a turkey named Tom from Porky, who plans to serve him for dinner, but his loyalty wavers when he learns about the dinner plans. They actually reuse some of the ice gags in Iceman Duckus 20 years later, like this one. This was the first cartoon on the Hilarious Ham Superstars disc, and we went over it in episode 22. But let me play this one again for my dad up there, since it was so rarely heard.
Whistling.
This one's still kind of grainy. I'm guessing it probably could have been from a lower generation negative. Two Crows from Tacos came out on January 7th, 1956, directed by Frizz Freeling and written by Ted Pierce. Two Mexican crows try to catch a grasshopper in between bouts of taking long siestas in this reworking of Frizz's Hop, Skip, and a Chump. This was on the Foghorn Leghorn Superstars disc in the And Friends section. The second with them, Crow's Feet, will also add to Elmer's Blu-ray count once that comes out. It's generally nice looking with a little grain here and there. Final one on disc is Zoom and Board, who was released on September 14, 1957. Jones and Maltese. Coyote ends up falling off a cliff in smoke. Coyote keeps getting beeped.
Meep, meep. Meep, meep.
He jackhammers into the road, builds a brick wall, sees himself around it, puts bees over birdseed, but the bees attack the coyote. He uses an anvil and board, but the board breaks. Tries putting a bomb in a tunnel, but the bomb explodes. Uses a rock and a catapult, but it falls on a coyote. Tries using a harpoon gun, but the rope loops around his leg and takes him for the ride from hell. In the end, he's so traumatized, the Roadrunner takes pity on him and won't do a final scare. This is also from Disc Creative Golden Collection Volume 2. I'm pretty sure this was a network one and has been on Boomerang since last year as well. For the director rundown on this disc, we have Jones with 9, Freeling with 8, McKimson with 4, and an assist from Clampett, who has one of his own as well. Avery has 2, and Davis has 1. Character-wise, Bugs and Daffy both have 5. Porky has 2 with Daffy and 1 on his own. Tweety and Sylvester have 3. Pepe Le Pew, Foghorn, Leghorn, Speedy Gonzales, Sylvester's in one of his as well, and Roadrunner and Coyote have 2, plus 3 one-shots, even though 2 Crows from Tacos is technically 2-shot. And to mark his 80th birthday, so what's left for Yosemite Sam? Just one. We've mentioned it since it's also one of Bugs's. You can guess which one. Horsehair. So since we also talked about these 2 early characters, so what's left for Egghead specifically? The fellow with the black hair has 2 left, both from 1938, like the Daffy Duck cartoon. A Lad in Baghdad may take a little while, but Count Me Out was on Max in a restored edition that's also on the Blu-ray for the Nelson Eddy Jeanette MacDonald musical Sweethearts. So what's left for the guy in the Derby? Well, his debut in Little Red Walking Hood came out in Golden Collection Volume 5, so it needs a blue upgrade. Isle of Pingo Pongo we talked about. Johnny Smith and Pocahontas kind of falls into the same category. His final appearance in Believe It or Else hasn't hit digital home video either, but was pretty popular on TBS, so that's a definite Disc 1 candidate. And speaking of Egghead, Egghead Jr. just needs one more blue upgrade. Crock-a-Doodle-Doo will complete his trio. Now, how do we do with our guesses for the new-to-home video tunes on Disc 1? Back in Collector's Choice Volume 4, we listed A Day at the Zoo, Squawkin' Hawk, Goofy Gophers, Each Dawn I Crow, Goodnight Elmer, The Dixie Friar, Zip and Snort, and if you want to stretch it, we did mention Quackadile Tears in Daffy's So What's Left. So that's like 7 or 8, plus the 3 that we added to Bugs' 80th set. Not too bad. So what do I think will be on the next volume? Well, it depends what their focus is. For Disc 1, will they look to get more of the main stars like Daffy and Tweety and Sylvester narrowed down? For Disc 2, will they look to close out short series like Charlie Dog and the Three Bears, and Frisky Pup for that matter? And how about fixing the wrong aspect ratios from the Superstars disc? Plus, there's a major debut still missing. I haven't got a hat. Porky Pig. We'll see how many more of the ones I listed back in the video for Collector's Choice Volume 4 make it out next time. Okay, here's the Jerry Beck story he told Tim on the Extras podcast. I linked it below so you can hear the full version from the man himself. When he was working at United Artists in the 70s and 80s, he noticed cartoon prints were being sent to a very odd place, a porno theater. To get the patrons to leave after the main features were done, they showed cartoons. Mainly he was noticing there were a lot of Pink Panthers being shown there. But at one point, he found that there was a 35mm print of Birth of a Notion at a nearby theater. So he went there just to see that. You know, you have to love your craft sometimes. Now, before we go, I want to put out the Left Turn at Albuquerque challenge to the good folks at Warner Brothers. I want you guys to set a target for yourselves to have all 1,000 or 1,002 or whatever the number is of the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, plus whatever the heck Normal is. I want you to have them restored and available by April 19th, 2030, the 100th anniversary of Sinking in the Bathtub. I mean, if you can get them all upgraded to blue at that point, that'd be great, but I'll accept some still just on DVD. Though, as a corollary to this, look to get all the Bugs Bunnies upgraded. I mean, we're in the mid-double digits still of those that need Blu-ray copies of that. Now, this will obviously require putting out the bad ones, both in terms of quality with the later ones and the politically incorrectness, and then some, of those, Hopefully they'll come up with some kind of process where they can be made available, but with everyone knowing what they are. I mean, you just don't want someone turning in to see you later Gladiator cold now, do you? Next time it'll be our Golden Summer, or what's left of it, as we take on all 6 of the Golden collections. They'll be coming out as I get them done. I'm John Hartshart. Thanks for watching.